You're standing on a frozen shore. The wind cuts through your cloak. Your brother lies face down in the mud, a spear through his chest. And somewhere above you, through the gray clouds, something is watching. Something is choosing. Not whether your brother was good or bad. Not whether he was kind or cruel. Just one thing: how he died. That single fact, the way his heart stopped, decides everything. Not a golden hall. Not for him. He died in battle, yes, but even that doesn't mean what you think it means. But to make sense of this, we need to tear down something you've been told your whole life. Every movie, every game, every streaming epic paints the same picture. A Viking dies with a sword in hand, and the gates of Valhalla swing open. Mead flows, horns blast, warriors feast for all time. It's a beautiful lie, and it hides a truth that's far stranger, because the Norse didn't believe in one afterlife. They believed in at least 4, and most of their dead never came close to Odin's golden hall. Think about that. The very people we call Vikings, farmers, fishers, mothers, smiths, most of them were headed somewhere else. Somewhere cold, somewhere dark, or somewhere deep beneath the waves. So here's what happened when a Norse person closed their eyes for the last time. The soul left the body, and then, like a traveler at a crossroads, it was sorted. Not by a judge, not by a scale weighing sins against good deeds. The sorting was brutal in its simplicity. It asked one question: did you die in combat? If yes, divine agents called Valkyries, women with wings and purpose, swept down to collect you. If no, you went somewhere else. No appeal. No second chance. Now here's where it gets sharp. Even the battle dead didn't all end up in the same place. The Valkyries split them. Half went to Odin, half went to Freyja, and Freyja picked first. Let that sink in. The goddess most people barely mention, in the same breath as Odin had first claim on the fallen. Her realm was called Folkvanga, and the people's field. Picture long tables set in meadows, flowers tangled in the grass between shields and spears. This wasn't some lesser prize. Runestones from Sweden carved over 1,000 years ago describe warriors who sailed to Folkvanga, not Valhalla. Folkvanger, they were proud of it. But we never hear about her. In nearly every modern retelling, Odin stands alone at the top. Freyja fades into the background, reduced to a love goddess, stripped of her war role. She wasn't his helper, she was his equal. And in one key respect, she outranked him. She chose first. So what about Odin's half? Valhalla, you know the name. A hall so vast that hundreds of warriors could march through each of its countless doors. The dead who reached this place were called Einherjar, as those who fight alone. Every dawn, they rose and fought each other to the death. Every evening, their wounds healed, and they sat down to feast. Endless war, endless recovery. It sounds glorious if you're a warrior, but think about the price. You fight and die every single day forever. This wasn't paradise, it was boot camp for the end of the world. Because Odin didn't collect warriors out of love. He collected them out of fear. He needed an army for Ragnarok, the final battle, when gods and giants would tear reality apart. Valhalla wasn't a reward, it was a draft. But here's the tension most people miss. Battle deaths were rare. Most Norse people didn't die on a field with a sword in their grip. They died the way most humans have always died. Sickness, old age, a fall from a roof, a fever that wouldn't break, a birth that went wrong, and for every one of those deaths, the place they went was the same. Hell, not hell, hell. Forget fire, forget demons, forget every image burned into your mind by centuries of Christian art. Norse hell was cold. Fog curled through its halls. The ruler, a pale woman, also named Hel, lived in a place that roughly means boughs damp with sleet. Her plate was named hunger. Her knife was named famine. The bed was sickness. The curtains were called glimmering misfortune. Every object in her home was a quiet monument to the way most people left the world. And yet, hell wasn't punishment. This is the part that breaks people's expectations. There were no tortures, no screaming, no judgment of your sins. You simply existed there, in a cold, still twilight, because you hadn't died the right way. The universe didn't care whether you were generous or greedy. It cared whether you bled out on a battlefield or coughed your last breath into a pillow. That's the moral logic of this system. There is none. You might think that's harsh, and you'd be right to push back. Some scholars argue that later sagas, written down by Christian monks centuries after the Viking Age, may have sharpened these divisions to fit a more tidy worldview. The real beliefs might have been fuzzier, more local, more personal. A farmer in inland Norway might never have heard of Ran, the sea goddess. A coastal fisher might not have cared much about Valhalla. The neat four-part map we're drawing here might be cleaner than the real thing ever was. That's a fair point, but the patterns hold up in both text and dirt. Burial sites tell a story that matches the poems. Graves of likely warriors contain weapons, shields, even horses. Graves of ordinary people, and these make up the vast bulk of what's been dug up, contain almost nothing. A comb, a clay pot, that's it. The living weren't packing a suitcase for Valhalla. They were accepting that the place they were headed was colder, quieter, and didn't need luggage. Now let's go underwater, because the Norse had a fourth path, and it belongs to the sea. You're on the deck of a long ship. The storm hit an hour ago. Waves taller than the mast crash over the rail. The hull groans, and then it splits. You go under. The cold hits your chest like a hammer. Salt fills your throat, and somewhere in the black water, something reaches for you. A net, woven by Ran, goddess of the drowned. Ran didn't wait for you to sink. She cast her net and pulled you in, the way a fisher hauls in cod. Her haul sat on the ocean floor, walls made of ship ribs, light filtering green through the water above. The sagas describe sailors lost to her in vivid terms. Whole chapters in one famous saga revolve around shipwrecks claimed by Ran. Another text names entire fleets swallowed in a single storm, every soul aboard taken to her palace. This wasn't hell. Drowned souls didn't drift into the fog-bound halls beneath the world tree. They stayed in the sea. Ran's domain was separate, governed by its own rules, fed by its own kind of death. If you lived by the water, Ran was as real to you as Odin was to a king. And this brings us to something strange and practical: funeral rites. Because the Norse didn't just mourn their dead, they equipped them. Ship burials, real ships, dragged onto land and filled with everything a soul might need, served as vehicles for the afterlife journey. The most famous example is a massive vessel, carved from bow to stern, packed with weapons, cloth, and tools. That wasn't grief talking. That was planning. Elites got ships. Common folk got mounds or shallow pits. But even common graves sometimes held a small token, a blade, a brooch, as if hedging a bet. Maybe the dead would need it. Maybe the gesture mattered to whoever was watching. The funeral wasn't just about saying goodbye. It was about making sure the dead arrived where they were supposed to go. Here's where the whole system starts to feel less like religion and more like a machine. Death type picks the route, the funeral provides the ticket. The Valkyries handle the transfer, and the four realms sit at the end of their own roads, each with its own ruler, its own mood, its own version of forever. It's not moral, it's mechanical, a sorting machine built from myth. But that machine has one blind spot. What about people who fell between groups? A warrior who drowned at sea during a naval battle. Does he go to Freyja or to Ran? A woman who died defending her farm from raiders. Is that combat? The texts don't always agree. Some sagas blur the lines. Some graves defy neat sorting. And that's probably the truest thing about this system. It was built by humans trying to make sense of something senseless. It cracked at the edges. the way all human systems do. Still, those cracks don't erase the structure. 4 roads, 4 rulers, 4 kinds of forever, shaped not by who you were, but by how you stopped being. Every story ever told is also a story about its ending. If you want to hear what happens when the gods themselves face their final breath, when even Odin meets a death he can't escape, that story is waiting for you on this channel. Subscribe and it'll find you. So picture that frozen shore one more time. Your brother lies in the mud, spear through his chest. Somewhere above the clouds, a Valkyrie descends. She doesn't ask if he was good. She doesn't check his heart. She just reaches down, lifts what's left of him, and carries it toward a fork in the road. Left or right, Freyja or Odin, he never gets to choose.